drink in your hand right now is not what the label says it is. Not even close. You grabbed something that said crisp, refreshing, light, and the industry spent billions of dollars making sure that's the only story you ever heard. Today we're ranking 15 hard seltzers from the absolute bottom of the barrel to the ones actually worth buying, and the stuff in between is going to surprise you. Before we get into it, if you're new around here, this channel is where we pull back the curtain on what's actually inside what you eat and drink. Subscribe now, because this series goes way deeper than one video. Now let's talk about what you're actually drinking first, because the whole list falls apart without this foundation. Most people treat hard seltzer like it's somewhere between sparkling water and a vodka soda. Clean, light, simple. The truth is that the majority of hard seltzers on the shelf right now are made by fermenting sugar. Cane sugar or dextrose gets dissolved in water, yeast gets added, and the yeast eats the sugar and produces alcohol. That's it. That's the base. Brewing suppliers call it a sugar wash fermentation, and the most honest way to describe the result is sugar beer. Not beer in the craft sense, not beer in the lager sense. A sugar-based fermented alcohol that's been stripped of everything that makes it taste like anything. The reason it needs to be stripped is important. Raw fermented sugar isn't naturally clean tasting. It's acidic. It carries off flavors, and it would taste harsh and strange if you drank it without further processing. So manufacturers run it through fining agents, heavy filtration, and pH control to pull out the bad taste. Then they add the good taste back in through natural flavors, citric acid, and sweeteners. The drink is deconstructed and then rebuilt. That's what's happening every time you pop open something marketed as refreshingly clean. The phrase natural flavors on a hard seltzer label means highly processed aromatic compounds derived from natural sources. It's not juice. It's not fruit. It's a flavor system engineered to mimic fruit, and it behaves differently in the mouth than actual pressed juice does. It delivers the idea of lime without the full sensory experience of lime. There's a thinness to it that most people have noticed but never been able to name. Now here's the category breakdown that most people don't know. The hard seltzer shelf contains 3 fundamentally different products that look nearly identical. First, classic cane sugar, or malted rice ferments, which are what White Claw, Truly, and Bud Light Seltzer are built on. Second, flavored malt beverages that are legally classified like beer, but marketed as premium cocktails, which is what Cayman Jack is. And third, spirit-based seltzers made with actual distilled vodka or tequila, which is High Noon's entire identity. A High Noon and a White Claw sitting next to each other in the same cooler have nearly identical calorie counts, identical ABV, similar flavor options, and one is a distilled spirits product and one is a malt beverage. Most people grabbing either one have no idea which is which. The health language around hard seltzer has also done real damage to how people evaluate these products. Low calories, gluten-free, no added sugar. These phrases have trained millions of people to think of hard seltzer as a healthier than average alcohol option. Consumer health groups are consistent on this. No alcohol is healthy, regardless of calorie count, organic certification, or vitamin content. The risk profile is the alcohol itself. A 100-calorie hard seltzer is not a health drink, it's just a lower-calorie alcoholic drink. That distinction matters, especially as brands have pushed further and further into wellness-adjacent language to differentiate themselves in a crowded market. Some of that wellness language has drawn regulatory attention and legal challenges. Specific brands have received letters from the FDA and faced class action lawsuits over marketing claims that, critics argue, frame alcohol as health promoting. We'll get to those brands specifically as we move through the list. Keep 2 questions in your head as we go. What is the alcohol source and what is building the flavor? Those 2 things will tell you more about what you're actually holding than anything on the front of the can. Starting at the bottom, number 15. BuzzBallz. The product design here is doing a specific job. Spherical cans, bright colors, playful names, novelty shapes that suggest party prop more than serious drink. Everything about the packaging is engineered to feel like a fun, casual, single-serve option. Something you'd grab alongside a bag of chips or throw in a cooler without a second thought. That's the setup for the problem. BuzzBallz run at 15% ABV in a 187 to 200 milliliter container. Working through the math, one BuzzBallz delivers roughly the alcohol equivalent of 3 standard 5% hard seltzers. 3 in a single small sphere that fits in the palm of your hand and takes about as long to finish as a shot. The form factor and the reality are in complete opposition to each other. The calorie and sugar density match the ABV. Nutrition data shows these running with significant carbohydrates per serving. Not because of natural fruit ingredients, but because of the sweetener and flavor systems needed to make a 15% ABV product taste palatable. Some flavors include certified artificial colors like FD and Sea Yellow No. 5. The flavor profiles mimic cocktails, margarita, piña colada, which places them squarely in candy-like territory. There's nothing crisp or clean about the ingredient architecture. The real risk is the perception gap. Someone who grabs a BuzzBallz expecting something in the general universe of a light seltzer is walking into something with the strength of wine. The experience of holding a novelty-sized sphere reduces the psychological weight that normally comes with a full glass of wine or a large mixed drink. Smaller object, bigger impact. That gap has fueled a social media culture around these that treats them like quick hit shots. TikTok challenge content has positioned BuzzBallz as party starters, which speeds up consumption of something that's already running at wine-level potency. There's a place for high ABV RTD products in the world. People consume them responsibly all the time. The issue with BuzzBallz is the deliberate gap between what the branding signals and what the product delivers. If the can was honest about its category, it would belong in a different conversation entirely. Number 14. For Loko. The history here is worth telling because it reframes everything about the current product. In the late 2000s, For Loko was a caffeinated, high ABV malt beverage that became directly linked to hospitalizations and emergency room visits across multiple states. College campuses banned it. Several states removed it from shelves. The FDA took action. Eventually, the manufacturer was forced to reformulate, removing caffeine, taurine, guarana, and other stimulants from the product. That reformulation happened around 2010, and it was a meaningful change that made the product significantly safer than its original form. The problem is that removing stimulants from a high ABV, aggressively flavored malt beverage doesn't address the foundational issue, which is the combination of potent alcohol and a flavor system engineered to erase the taste of that alcohol. Many For Loko flavors still sit at double-digit ABV in various markets, putting a single tall can at the equivalent of multiple light beers in terms of alcohol content. The drink looks like a flavored seltzer or energy drink on the shelf. Consumes like one too if you've never had it before. The alcohol doesn't register in the taste. The flavors are deliberately extreme. Fruit punch, sour neon, profiles that taste like melted popsicles or frozen candy. That's not a flavor philosophy, it's a masking strategy. When something tastes like blue raspberry or watermelon candy, the brain doesn't process it the same way it processes obvious alcohol. The disconnect between the flavor signal and the alcohol reality is part of why first-time drinkers and people who misjudge it end up in trouble. For Loko has become a meme, and that mythology now does the marketing for them. What happened was, because of For Loko is cultural shorthand in a way that effectively advertises the product to exactly the audience most likely to approach it carelessly. Notoriety is its own form of marketing in certain demographics. It belongs at the bottom of this list, not because it should be prohibited, but because the meme status papers over real consequences, and because its flavor engineering makes honest assessment harder than it should be. Number 13. Cheap gas station seltzers. No brand name attached to this one because it doesn't need one. You know exactly what we're talking about. The cooler section near the register at a truck stop or gas station. The one with 4 or 5 cans that look like they're imitating White Claw or Truly, but with slightly off fonts, slightly wrong colors, and a price that seems too good. The cuts happen at every level of production. The cheapest available alcohol base goes in first, whether that's low-grade sugar fermentation or a low-cost malt base. Bulk flavor concentrates get layered in because premium flavor systems eat into margin. Quality control is loose in part because many of these products are contract manufactured, which means the production runs through facilities producing multiple brands under different labels. The same product may taste measurably different from batch to batch. Consumer complaints about nail polish notes, harsh chemical aftertaste, and inconsistent flavor are common and consistent across these products. The ingredient panels are the giveaway: water, alcohol, natural flavors, citric acid, sucralose. The word alcohol without further specification tells you almost nothing. What kind of alcohol? What base? Fermented cane sugar? Malted rice? A blended neutral spirit from multiple fermentation sources? The label has no obligation to tell you, and here it doesn't. That opacity is built in. The price differential between these and a mid-tier national brand like Truly or White Claw is often only a few cents per can, not a meaningful saving across a full case. But the drop in drinkability is real. The people who have bought a full case of generic seltzer to stock for a gathering and watched half of it sit untouched at the end of the night know exactly what this section is describing. Guests will quietly pass for water before finishing a harsh, syrupy can they don't enjoy. The bargain isn't real, the savings are small, and the quality cost is large. When the label reads like a chemistry worksheet and the can looks like a knockoff, it's priced that way for a reason. Number 12. Cayman Jack. Shifting into the overhyped and misleading tier now, and Cayman Jack earns the first spot in that category with very little resistance. The front of the can is working hard, margarita prominently displayed, imagery borrowed from barcraft cocktail culture, language about lime juice and agave nectar, premium pricing that sits right alongside genuine tequila-based RTDs on the shelf. The brand has constructed a visual and verbal identity that pushes as close to "this has tequila in it" as legally possible without actually saying that. Flip the can over. Cayman Jack is labeled as a premium malt beverage with flavors. The alcohol base is malted grain, not tequila. That is the foundational truth of what this product is, and the front of the can is engineered to make that truth as invisible as possible for as long as possible in the purchase decision. The agave nectar language that features prominently in the marketing and on the label refers to small amounts of agave syrup or agave-derived flavor compounds used in the formulation. It is not a signal that there is agave spirit inside. Agave nectar and tequila are both derived from the agave plant in the same general way that grape juice and wine both come from grapes. Using agave-adjacent ingredients does not make something a tequila product. Why does it matter that this is a malt beverage instead of a tequila product? Two reasons. The first is taste. Tequila has a specific flavor profile, a brightness, an herbal note, a particular kind of finish that gives margaritas their character. A malt-based sweetened malt beverage flavored with lime and agave syrup is a different drink that can approximate that profile from the outside, but doesn't deliver it in the glass. The second is distribution. Malt beverages move through beer distribution channels which are cheaper and more widely accessible than spirit distribution in states with strict alcohol regulations. The malt beverage classification is a business decision with real commercial advantages. Consumers are the ones absorbing the difference. The sugar load in a product like this is significant. Mimicking a bar margarita means building sweetness, tartness, and body. And in the absence of tequila providing that structure, sweeteners and flavor systems carry the weight. What comes out is closer to a sweet citrus soda with alcohol than to anything you'd find at a cocktail bar. Number 11. Truly Hard Seltzer. Truly has earned its position as one of the two dominant names in mass-market hard seltzer through enormous distribution reach, aggressive flavor variety, and consistent pricing. The variety packs are in every grocery store, every gas station, every stadium, and event venue. That's real commercial success, and it reflects real consumer behavior. Truly sells because people buy it regularly. The critique isn't that Truly is a bad product. The critique is that its scale and market presence have created a perception that it's the benchmark for quality in the category, when it's actually the benchmark for accessibility. A typical can runs water, alcohol from cane sugar fermentation, natural flavors, citric acid, cane sugar, and sodium citrate. The natural flavors entry is doing the heavy lifting on taste. As covered in the setup, natural flavors are processed aromatic compounds engineered to simulate fruit. They work. The mango actually tastes like mango in the way a good scented candle smells like vanilla. It's a reasonable simulation that hits the right notes without being the real thing. The flavor consistency problem shows up most clearly in variety packs. Pick up a 12-pack variety and work through it. Some flavors taste genuinely clean and refreshing. Others, often in the same box, taste like diet soda with a hint of fruit. Wild berry hits differently than strawberry lemonade, which hits differently than tropical citrus. And the variation isn't personal preference, it's formulation. The flavor systems behind each variety are built separately, and at mass production scale, the quality isn't equal across the lineup. Truly has leaned into new flavor innovations aggressively, launching Truly Punch, Extra, Lemonade, and other lines to chase novelty and shelf space. Each new line extends the brand further from the clean, simple, original proposition. More ingredients, more flavor complexity, more sweetener systems. The further Truly stretches into specialty flavors, the further it drifts from the clean and crisp identity the category was built on. For an outdoor event, a budget social gathering, or a situation where you need large quantities without spending premium prices, Truly is functional. For anyone who has tasted a spirit-based seltzer and then come back to Truly, the gap is hard to ignore. Number 10. White Claw. White Claw built this category, full credit for that. Before 2018 and 2019, hard seltzer was a niche product with a small dedicated following and no cultural presence. White Claw created cultural presence, the memes, the "ain't no laws when you're drinking claws" phrase, the 2019 summer where it seemed like every outdoor event in America had a White Claw in somebody's hand. That didn't happen by accident. The brand identified a gap in the market between beer and spirits, built a product that sat comfortably in between, priced it accessibly, marketed it brilliantly, and got to scale before anyone else had a chance to. The product itself starts with cane sugar and water, fermented with proprietary yeast strains to create a neutral alcohol, then filtered heavily and combined with carbonated water and natural fruit flavors. Manufacturing analyses classify it as a malt beverage made from fermented sugar or malted barley base, which puts it in the same structural category as Truly and Bud Light Seltzer. Not a distilled spirit. The flavors are consistent in a way that deserves acknowledgement. White Claw Black Cherry, Lime, Mango, and the other core flavors taste essentially identical from can to can, market to market, season to season. That consistency is technically difficult to achieve at the scale White Claw operates, and it reflects genuine manufacturing discipline. The trade-off is that consistency was achieved by engineering flavors toward the center, away from bold fruit character, because extreme flavor is harder to keep consistent than subtle flavor. The result is clean, reliable, and noticeably muted. Compared to where the category was in 2018, White Claw is still a solid choice. Compared to where the category is now, it's behind. Spirit-based seltzers with real juice have a fuller mouthfeel. The flavor has weight that a fermented sugar base plus natural flavor concentrate doesn't replicate. The gap between White Claw and its most direct premium competitor is audible in a side-by-side tasting even for casual drinkers. Most of White Claw's market share right now is running on memory and habit from a time when it had no meaningful competition. That's a different thing from being the best option currently available. Number 9. Bud Light Seltzer. If Truly built its empire on flavor variety and White Claw built its on being first, Bud Light Seltzer built on one thing: the Bud Light brand doing what Bud Light has always done: sell to the middle of the market at a price that removes hesitation. Anheuser-Busch watched the hard seltzer boom from the sidelines for longer than most people remember, and then entered the category with Bud Light Seltzer, with the same product philosophy that built their core business. Keep it affordable, keep it consistent, keep it everywhere. The marketing leaned on the Bud Light recognition directly rather than building a new brand identity. The bet was that people already trusted the Bud Light name and would transfer that trust to the seltzer line. That bet worked well enough to make Bud Light Seltzer a significant player. The formulation reflects the corporate efficiency of the parent company. Water, alcohol from cold fermented cane sugar, natural flavors, citric acid, sodium citrate, sucralose, and malted rice. That ingredient list is precisely calibrated for cost efficiency and product stability at massive scale. Nothing in it is experimental or premium. Every component is chosen to perform reliably across billions of cans. Sucralose shows up explicitly here, and it's worth pausing on that. Sucralose delivers sweetness with 0 calories. The reason it gets added is to hit a sweetness profile that makes the drink feel satisfying without raising the calorie count. The side effect is that a meaningful percentage of drinkers detect an aftertaste, the slight chemical or diet quality that sucralose leaves at the back of the palate. The brand's own marketing has addressed this directly by emphasizing no lingering aftertaste in their advertising. The fact that they built a marketing claim around the absence of an aftertaste is an honest acknowledgement that the aftertaste was a known issue to address. The 5-step filtration process mentioned in the brand's marketing is real, and it tells a story about the product that's more accurate than any flavor description. Heavy industrial filtration is needed to make the fermented sugar base taste neutral enough to work as a seltzer platform. The processing isn't a premium feature, it's infrastructure required to make the base palatable. This is a totally serviceable drink for its purpose. At a large barbecue, a company picnic, a sporting event where quantity and price matter more than flavor and nuance, Bud Light Seltzer does the job. The expectation level needs to match the product level. Number 8. Michelob Ultra Organic Seltzer. The Michelob Ultra brand built its entire identity around the crossover point between alcohol and active lifestyle culture. Low carbs, low calories, association with running and fitness. When the brand launched an organic seltzer line, it was following a very direct internal logic. If our core consumer cares about health and fitness, and the wellness trend is moving toward organic ingredients, we build organic seltzer. The USDA certification on the can is legitimate. The ingredients used in fermentation were grown under organic standards, which regulate the use of synthetic pesticides and certain fertilizers. That's a real thing that requires real third-party verification. The premium pricing on the shelf reflects the actual cost increase of sourcing certified organic inputs. What organic certification doesn't tell you is whether the product tastes better, contains fewer additives, or carries fewer health risks than its non-organic counterpart. The fermentation process is identical, whether the cane sugar going in was grown conventionally or organically. The filtration process is identical. The addition of acids and natural flavor concentrates to make the base taste like something is identical. Organic cane sugar makes the same kind of fermented alcohol base as conventional cane sugar. The end product is structurally the same as every other cane sugar fermented seltzer. The source of the inputs changed. The architecture of the drink did not. The zero sugar formulation creates a specific flavor experience that splits opinion. Without any sweetness from sugar or juice, the flavor relies entirely on the acid system and natural flavor concentrate. The result is a dry, sharp profile. Some drinkers find this genuinely crisp, a clean, tart, refreshing finish that doesn't linger. Others find it thin and flat, like flavored club soda with an abrupt, almost harsh end. Neither reaction is wrong. The profile is just more polarizing than a slightly sweetened version of the same drink would be. The consumer who reaches for this at a premium price point because organic signals better health outcomes is the consumer the brand is targeting. The honest read is that the organic certification is real. The health benefits above and beyond any other alcohol are not, and the taste trade-offs of zero sugar production are worth knowing before you pay the premium. Number 7. Overly flavored seltzers. This isn't a brand, it's a segment that has grown enough to deserve its own stop on this list. Walk the seltzer aisle of any large grocery store right now and count the flavors that exist outside any reasonable definition of light and refreshing. Strawberry shortcake, passion fruit coconut, piña colada swirl, cotton candy, watermelon mojito. Brands have discovered that novelty flavors generate social media content, and social media content sells cases. What does this even taste like moment at the register moves product in a way that traditional advertising can't always replicate. The flavor engineering behind these products operates on a different logic than the rest of the seltzer category. Standard seltzers use flavor systems to approximate a clean fruit note. These use flavor systems to approximate a dessert experience or a cocktail experience, which requires stacking multiple flavor compounds, sweeteners, and aromatic components on top of each other to get close. That stacking happens for a practical reason beyond novelty. The more complex and aggressive the flavor profile, the more effectively it covers the base. Off notes from cheap sugar fermentation, slight chemical undertones from low-quality filtration, the general roughness of an uninspired alcohol base, all of it disappears under enough cotton candy concentrate and sucralose. The flavor isn't just there to taste like something interesting. It's there to make sure the base doesn't taste like something bad. The sweetener complexity is its own issue. Multiple sweeteners used together, stevia for one kind of sweetness, sucralose for another, maybe a small amount of actual sugar for mouthfeel, create a compound effect. The first sip hits hard and reads as sweet and interesting. The second can of the same flavor starts to wear on the palate. By the third, there's a cloying, artificial quality that refuses to leave. These are built for a single experience. They don't hold up across a social evening the way a clean, simple seltzer does. The test is straightforward. If you find yourself saying, I could really only drink one or two of these, that's the product architecture telling you something. Number 6. Topo Chico Hard Seltzer. Topo Chico has been a premium sparkling water for over a century. Its reputation is built on two things: exceptionally aggressive carbonation and a mineral character derived from the water source in Monterrey, Mexico. People who drink Topo Chico regularly describe it as a different experience from other sparkling waters. Not just fizzy water, but something with texture and mineral presence that changes how it feels to drink it. That reputation, built over decades, is what the hard seltzer line is borrowing, and it's a significantly more credible foundation than most brands in this space start from. The ingredient list for something like the tropical mango variety shows filtered carbonated water, alcohol, sugar, natural flavors, citric acid, specifically magnesium chloride and potassium chloride added for taste. Those last two items are the most interesting part of the formulation. They are mineral additions that replicate the specific profile of Topo Chico sparkling water inside the seltzer format. Other seltzer brands use plain carbonated water. Topo Chico Hard Seltzer uses mineral water. The textural difference in the bubble is real and detectable. The nutritional profile lands around 100 calories, 4.7% ABV, and 2 grams of sugar per can, putting it squarely in the mainstream seltzer range. It's not trying to out-health the organic brands or out-spirit the vodka-based ones. It's a fermented sugar seltzer like most of its competition. The upgrade is the carbonation quality and the mineral architecture, which give it a more complex mouthfeel than flatly carbonated competitors. Flavors like strawberry guava and exotic pineapple run fruit forward without crossing into dessert sweetness. They read as adult beverage choices rather than candy-adjacent novelties. The flavor restraint is meaningful. It suggests the brand is confident enough in the carbonation and mineral quality that they don't need extreme flavor to carry the product. This is an example of differentiation through process rather than through marketing claim. The carbonation is genuinely better. The mouthfeel is genuinely more interesting. Those things come from the mineral additions, and that's a legitimate reason to choose this over a standard fermented sugar seltzer at a similar price point. Number 5. Vizzy Hard Seltzer. Vizzy made a good product and then wrapped it in a marketing story that has attracted real scrutiny, and both of those things deserve equal space. Start with the product. Vizzy flavors like blackberry lime, blueberry pomegranate, and pineapple mango are genuinely well executed. The flavor profiles feel more contemporary and fruit-forward than older entries in the mainstream seltzer category. The standard 100-calorie, 5% ABV construction is the same as its direct competitors. In a blind taste test situation without labels, Vizzy holds up well against other cane sugar ferment seltzers. It's a solid product for the category it's in. The vitamin C claim is where things get complicated. Vizzy launched as the first hard seltzer marketed with antioxidant vitamin C from acerola superfruit. The labels prominently display vitamin C and the 20% of daily value call-out per 12-ounce can. The product imagery and brand language lean into superfruit in a way that positions Vizzy close to the wellness drink end of the spectrum. For an alcoholic beverage, that's a significant piece of real estate to occupy. Consumer advocacy organizations, including the Center for Science and the Public Interest and the Consumer Federation of America, sent letters to regulators arguing that using antioxidant and superfruit language on an alcoholic beverage actively misleads consumers about the health implications of what they're drinking. The argument is that when a product signals health benefits through vitamin C and antioxidant framing, people naturally weigh the perceived benefit against the known health risk of alcohol and may underestimate the risk side of that equation. The vitamin C itself is real. Dried acerola cherry juice, which is a legitimate source of vitamin C, appears on the ingredient list. What the 20% daily value amounts to per can is roughly what you'd find in a small strawberry. The superfruit language around that contribution is doing an enormous amount of work for a modest nutritional addition. Legal challenges followed the regulatory letters. Class action claims argued that marketing alcohol with health-adjacent language constitutes consumer deception. The cases moved through the legal system in the way these things do. Vizzy tastes good and earns its place at this tier for flavor execution. The wellness badge is the part to approach with clear eyes. The antioxidants don't make it a health product. The vitamin C doesn't offset the alcohol. What it is a well-made seltzer with a marketing angle worth treating skeptically. Number 4, High Noon. This is where the list changes its character. High Noon is not a malt beverage. It is not fermented cane sugar. It is vodka, distilled from corn, sparkling water, and real fruit juice. 3 components. That's the entire product. The structural difference between this and every fermented sugar seltzer covered so far is the starting point. Distillation is a fundamentally different process than fermentation. When you distill a spirit, you're separating alcohol from the rest of the fermentation output through evaporation and condensation. The result removes many of the fermentation byproducts and congeners that create off flavors in undistilled bases. The vodka that results doesn't need heavy industrial filtration to be palatable. It's already a clean, refined spirit before anything else is added. Put a High Noon next to a cane sugar seltzer in the same flavor, say watermelon or peach, and taste them back to back. The High Noon has body. It has a quality the other one doesn't have, which comes from the vodka delivering a real spirit structure underneath the fruit flavor. The cane sugar seltzer has flavored sparkling water. High Noon has a cocktail. Real fruit juice instead of natural flavor. Concentrate is the second major differentiator. Natural flavor concentrate mimics the aromatic profile of fruit. Actual juice delivers the aromatic profile plus texture, natural sweetness, and a sense of real fruit character. The flavor has dimension. There's roundness to it. The synthetic approximation that natural flavors create is genuinely close, but it compresses the experience. Juice doesn't compress it. The ingredient list reflects the production reality. Vodka, sparkling water, real juice, no sucralose, no sodium citrate, no malted rice, no 5-step filtration marketing claim. Because the base doesn't need 5 steps of industrial processing to be drinkable. Short ingredient lists on spirit-based seltzers aren't a minimalist design choice. They're a reflection of starting with something clean. High Noon's growth from niche product to mainstream shelf presence happened faster than most products in this category because it was driven by word of mouth from people who tried it next to White Claw and didn't go back to White Claw. The taste difference drove the conversation. Number 3, Spirit-based seltzers as a category. High Noon proved the model. Now the model has expanded significantly enough that spirit-based seltzers deserve their own position on this list, separate from any individual brand. Vodka and tequila-based canned seltzers are now a category with real depth. Multiple producers have entered the space with products built on distilled spirits rather than fermented sugar or malt, and the quality level across that category is meaningfully higher than in the fermented sugar segment. The structural advantage comes from distillation. Distilling a spirit removes congeners and fermentation byproducts that never get fully cleaned out of sugar ferments, no matter how much filtration you apply. The base starts clean. That means the flavor system doesn't have to do remediation work alongside its actual job. Natural flavors in a spirit-based seltzer are layering taste onto a clean foundation. Natural flavors in a fermented sugar seltzer are layering taste while also covering up what's underneath. Those are different assignments, and the results taste different. Tequila-based seltzers add another dimension. Tequila has a distinctive, complex flavor character, agave's vegetal brightness, the specific kind of heat that comes from agave spirit, an herbal note that sits behind the sweetness. When that base is used in a canned cocktail or seltzer format, those flavor characteristics are present in the drink even at 5% ABV. The result has personality that a neutral vodka seltzer doesn't, and that a cane sugar seltzer absolutely doesn't. Simple ingredient lists are a feature of this category, not a coincidence. Spirit-based seltzers are routinely built with 3 to 5 ingredients. The spirit provides the alcohol and base character. The juice or natural flavor provides the fruit note. The sparkling water provides the format. An acid may or may not be needed, depending on how tart the flavor profile is. That's it. When you can put together a genuinely good drink with 5 ingredients, you're not hiding behind complexity. Distribution through liquor stores rather than grocery beer sections in many states raises the price modestly and provides a practical signal about what you're holding. The spirit aisle contains spirits. The product is where it belongs. Number 2. Low-ingredient seltzers. Regardless of whether the base is fermented sugar or distilled spirit, the cleanest hard seltzers across both categories are defined by restraint. Count the ingredients on any seltzer can before you buy it. 3 to 5 ingredient product, carbonated water, alcohol, maybe fruit juice, maybe 1 acid, is a fundamentally different drink from a product with 10 or 12 items. The correlation between ingredient count and quality isn't perfect, but it's consistent enough to be a useful filter when you're standing in front of a wall of seltzers with no other information to go on. The reason fewer ingredients usually means better taste has to do with what additional ingredients are actually for. Sucralose is there to add sweetness without calories because the base isn't sweet enough on its own without help. Multiple natural flavor compounds are stacked because one isn't strong enough to cover what needs to be covered. Sodium citrate is there to stabilize the pH because the fermentation left the base too acidic to be pleasant without buffering. Each additional ingredient is solving a problem created by the base or the production process. A clean base with honest flavor doesn't generate as many problems to solve. The absence of artificial sweeteners is particularly noticeable in actual drinking. Sucralose and similar sweeteners leave a specific kind of aftertaste at the back of the palate, a slightly chemical quality that the brain registers as artificial even when people can't identify why. Low-ingredient seltzers that get their sweetness from small amounts of real sugar or fruit juice don't create that sensation. The sweetness registers naturally and then ends naturally. Multiple cans over the course of a social evening is the real test. Complex sweetener systems and layered flavor concentrates become fatiguing after 2 or 3 drinks. Something that was compelling on the first can feel cloying by the third. Low-ingredient seltzers don't have this problem because they're not doing as much to the palate on each sip. They stay easy over time, which is exactly what a drink consumed across several hours needs to do. A simple test worth running at the store. Hold 2 cans, one from a well-known mass-market brand and one from somewhere unfamiliar. Cover the logos. Read the ingredient lists out loud. Which one sounds like something you'd put together yourself if you were making a cocktail at home? That answer is usually the one worth buying. Number 1. The best hard seltzers aren't the most popular ones. The top of this list is a recognition about how the market actually works, rather than a single brand standing above all others. White Claw, Truly, and Bud Light Seltzer own the majority of hard seltzer market share. They are on more shelves, in more coolers, at more events, and in more variety packs than everything else combined. That dominance is a function of distribution infrastructure and advertising investment. It reflects commercial execution at scale. It does not reflect ingredient quality, flavor accuracy, or transparency about what's inside the can. The brands consistently outperforming these giants in blind taste tests are almost uniformly the ones with better bases, shorter ingredient lists, and less reliance on sugar fermentation. High Noon was winning those comparisons well before its sales caught up to its reputation. Spirit-based newcomers with clean labels are consistently placed higher by consumers when the labels are removed from the evaluation. The market is moving toward this side of the quality conversation slowly, but the direction is clear. Consumer skepticism about health-adjacent alcohol marketing is catching up to the brands that pushed hardest on that angle. The legal challenges around vitamin C and superfruit branding have made it into mainstream consumer conversations in a way that wouldn't have happened 5 years ago. People are reading more labels than they were. The class action filings around Vizzy's marketing, the regulatory attention on organic alcohol health framing, the investigative coverage of how natural flavors actually work. All of it is raising the baseline level of awareness for consumers who care to look. The clean label movement in the food industry has been visible for years. It's arriving in alcohol now. Demand for recognizable ingredients on RTD products, actual spirits named clearly on the front of the can, real juice instead of natural flavors, minimal additive lists, is visible in the sales data of spirit-based seltzers relative to their malt counterparts. Legacy products are still moving volume on inertia and distribution reach. But the consumer who reads labels before buying isn't a niche buyer anymore. The best hard seltzer for you is not the one with the loudest commercial campaign or the most years on the shelf. It's the one whose ingredient list you read in a single breath and understand completely. Carbonated water, vodka, pineapple juice. Done. That's what the rest of this list has been building toward. The number 1 tier is a philosophy. Choose by what's inside, not by how big the brand is. To close this out, let's bring it all together. You walked into this video thinking hard seltzer was one category. It's 3 different things sharing a cooler and a calorie count. Sugar beer fermented from cane sugar and rebuilt with flavor chemistry. Flavored malt beverages wearing cocktail costumes and charging cocktail prices. And spirit-based seltzers made from actual distilled alcohol with real ingredient transparency. The front of the can doesn't tell you which one you're holding. The back does. The next time you're standing in front of a cooler, flip the can before you open it. Look for the alcohol source first. If it says malt beverage, or the ingredient list starts with fermented cane sugar or malted rice, you now understand what that means. If it says vodka or tequila, followed by water and juice, you're in a different category entirely. Those 2 versions of the same shelf space are not the same product. Nobody in that industry is going to make this easier. The wellness language is designed to close the gap between what you want to believe about the drink in your hand and what's actually in it. The cocktail branding on malt beverages is there to make the purchase decision feel like one thing when it's actually another. The health halos exist because they work. They lower the psychological guard around a product that carries real risks regardless of what the label says. But you have the framework now. And there's one more layer to this conversation that we haven't gotten into yet. Because what the hard seltzer industry has done with labeling opacity, ingredient misdirection, and wellness branding is actually just the opening chapter of something much larger happening across the entire RTD alcohol market. RTs, hard lemonades, canned wine cocktails, pre-mixed high ABV options positioned as casual drinks. The same structural gaps between front of can and back of can, the same exploitation of loose labeling rules, the same playbook running across an entirely different set of products. That breakdown is coming in the next video, And if this one surprised you, that one is going to change how you look at the entire alcohol cooler.